Hey guys, in this video we're going to go over loops in JavaScript. But before I begin, please sub to the channel and please like and comment on the video. Alright, let's get started. So the flow for today is, loops in JavaScript. I'm going to do a demo of how a loop looks like in JavaScript, right? We're going to go over two keywords that you need to know when it comes with loops, right? And there's break and continue, right? So how do you use those properly? And then I'm going to show you how to iterate over 1D and 2D arrays in JavaScript. All right, so now let's get started. Okay, so you all know what a loop is, right? It's basically you're just iterating over a sequence, or something that has basically a sequence. So an array is an example. Even you can loop over the hash table or dictionary, right? It's just that it'll be unordered, as we've discussed before. And you got to do what you got to do, right? In a lot of your functions and programs, you got to iterate over the data structure that you're working with, right? So if you don't know how to do that in JavaScript, well then kudos, man. Right? So let's start. How does it look, right? So there's two kinds of loops. There's for and while. I'll just do the while once because I think for is the more important one. So let's just go over it. So we have a for with two parentheses, and then you have the initialized variables. So I like to do let I equal 0. And then I is less than, let's say, 15, right? And then I plus plus, right? So what this is that we initialize our variable, and then we have a Boolean condition that checks at each iteration. And it checks, okay, is I less than 15? If so, move on to the contents in the for loop. And then after each iteration, it's going to do I plus plus. So it's going to increment by 1 each time, okay? So now we have this, and this is the body of the for loop, so you can put whatever you want here. In this case, I'll just say console.log I. Index I. Right, something like that. So now you can just run it. And now you're here, index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 14. Okay, so that's how the for loop works. Now let's do the same thing with the while loop. I'm going to do it once because, I think for loops are just more important in this case, right? So now in the while loop, you want to initialize your variable before. So we'll say let j equal 0, right? And then you'll say while j is less than 15. And then we'll do the same thing, console.log j, right? And then let's just comment this, and we'll do the same thing, index. Let's do while loop index. All right, so now we're here, and then I'm missing the plus equals 1 because then it'll be an infinite loop, and we don't want that. So I have to increment j by 1, and that's the thing with the while loop is you just got to make sure everything's in maintenance. With the for loop, it kind of sets everything for you. Right, so we have this. Now we can comment this. And let's run. So now I got while loop index 0 all the way to 14. Okay, great. So that is the while loop. All right, so that's there for you. I'm going to comment this so you can just look back at it whenever you want. And I'm going to keep the for loop because that's the one I'm going to be working with. Okay, so now I showed you how the loop works. Again, very easy. You're just iterating over a sequence. You're initializing a variable. Right, I is less than 15, and then I plus plus. So there's a initialize, Boolean, then increment. That's basically what it is. Okay, so now what is break and continue? So a lot of the times when you're looping through anything, sometimes what you want to do is you want to either skip some conditions or just break out of when a certain condition is met. So when we're breaking out of a loop when a condition is met, that's called a break. And when we just want to skip some values or skip when a condition is true, that's called continue. So let's show a break first. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to think of as an example. So if I'm iterating from 0 to 15, what I can do is I can say, right, with break, let's just say, I only want to I have an example. So let's say the user can put whatever number they want, right? and then we put that here. And let's just say that I want to break whenever the num is, a multiple of 10, right? So let's just say that. Or actually, no. Let me think of a better example when it comes to breaking. So, I have an idea. Okay, so there we go. So let's have an array, and then let's do a sum. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if the array sum is negative, then we're just going to break because we don't want to work with negative numbers. So for now, I'm not going to do that. So let's just call, let sum equal 0. And then I can just say sum plus equals r of I. And let's say r.length. And now let's just do console.log sum. Okay, so now let's run it. And it's good, right? But nothing was negative, so it didn't actually break. So now, let's just say I make it negative all of a sudden. So I do 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then I make this the negative, so this will be 6. So I'll make this negative 7. That way the sum will be negative 1. So now when I say if sum is less than 0, then you can console.log and be like negative in negative sum, and then just break, right? And then we can just log the negative sum too. So now let's see this in action. So now you can see negative sum, right? And why did that happen? Because we went 1 plus 2, which is 3, and then 3 plus 3, which is 6, and then 6 minus 7 is negative 1. So when it saw the negative 1, it said, oh, okay, less than 0. So now we're going to break. Okay, now let's add on to this for loop by working with the continue. Now let's say I don't want to add the odd numbers. I only want to add the even numbers. So a better way to do it is just do the modulo operator and just check if sum percent 2 equals 0. But we can do another way too, which is the continue method. So you can say if ri percent 2 does not equal 0, meaning it's an odd number, then just continue. Don't sum. And we should actually put this before the line 11. All right. So what does this mean? It's basically saying that if the entry in the array is an odd number, then skip it, continue. Just move on to the next iteration. That's the way you want to think about continue, right? If it's even, then proceed to this part. So now let's see how this changes the array or the outcome. So it just makes 2. And why? Because it only looked at this 2. It's the only even number in the array, right? Now let's actually run this. Let's say this is negative 6. Now what happens? So now it'll be 2 minus 6 because those are the only 2 even numbers in the array. But we get a negative sum, so it'll break, right? So hopefully that clarifies what break and continue is. In summation, break, it basically just exits out of the loop when a condition is met. So in this case, if the sum is less than 0, just break out of the loop, right, which is the for loop. And the continue says that, okay, if a certain condition is met, then don't move on to the contents in the for loop, right? Just continue, skip on to the next iteration. Okay, awesome. So now let's wrap it up by iterating over 1D and 2D arrays. So we already did the 1D array, but we can do it again. That's fine. So let's do let array 1 dim. We can say like 4, 5, 8, 7, 9, 11. And then let's say let array 2 dim, right? And then here we'll make it 2 dimensions. So I'll do like a dimension array inside it. It'll be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we already did the first one, so you should know this already. But we can just do for let I equals 0, I is less than the array 1 dim dot length, and then I plus plus, right? And then we can just say console.log array 1 dim of I, right? So that's how you log every item in the 1D array. Now the 2D array is still different, right? So I can copy this and change it around a little bit. So for the 2D array, what you're going to do is you're actually going to do this. So array 2dim.length. But what's going on here is I'm actually iterating and I'm getting arrays. In the previous one, I was getting pure numbers, right? But in this one, I'm iterating through arrays. So I actually got to iterate again to see the numbers inside the array. So what I mean by that is that iterate over the arrays, and then within each array, iterate over those. So I can actually copy this. And let's delete this one. And let's do this. Oh, let me make it more. Okay, and now let's do a tab. Let's do for let j, and then array 2dim. And what's going to happen is this will be an array. And we will do j++. Yep. And then now we can do that. And then yeah, I can say array I j. All right. So let's run this, and then I'll explain this more in detail if you're confused. Oh, oops, something happened. This should be j. Something isn't right. Array 2dim. All right, so that's how this works. And then ignore the negative sum. Let's actually comment this out. Okay, so what's going on here? So let me do a console.log to explain it better. So console.log, right, array 2dim of I. So what's going on is if I just iterate normally with one loop, I'm just getting a list of a sequence of arrays, right? Because each item inside the wrapper array is just arrays. So then I got to iterate over those, and that's exactly what this for loop is doing. So that's how come I'm getting the arrays items each time. All right, so I think that's it for this video, right? I showed you how loops work in JavaScript. So I have much more videos to come in the future, so please be on the lookout for those. And I can't wait to see you then. All right, bye.